In Zogchen, Buddha nature is sometimes identified with a foundational dimension of experience called the basis, or ji. This basis is said to be primordially pure, ka dark, meaning that it's not inherently tainted or flawed, and spontaneously present, lun drup, meaning that its expressive qualities arise naturally rather than being created. Because of this primordial purity, Zogchen texts also sometimes refer to Buddha nature as the Dharmakaya of the basis. Dharmakaya is generally described as the ultimate nature of mind, but Buddhism does not mean by this that it is a metaphysical substance or essence. Rather, Dharmakaya refers to realization, the complete awakening of a Buddha, in which emptiness and wisdom are fully and inseparably known. It is not something one possesses, but the way reality is known when ignorance has been entirely removed. And so, the teaching of Tathagatagarbha, or Buddha nature, expresses the idea that all sentient beings have the capacity to awaken. When this same Dharmakaya is obscured by afflictions, it is referred to as Tathagatagarbha. So while all beings have Buddha nature, only Buddhas, who have completely removed these obscurations, fully manifest the awakened qualities of Dharmakaya, such as perfect wisdom and compassion. Accordingly, the Dharmakaya of the basis is not the same as the fully realized Dharmakaya of a Buddha. The former refers to the ground as it is, where it is pure and self-present, yet not lived as the awakened mode of being, whereas the latter is that same reality fully recognized and expressed. In other words, the basis is not enlightened. From the standpoint of the basis in itself, there is no distinction between being enlightened and unenlightened. Realization and delusion are a matter of recognition, and the difference between a Buddha and an ordinary being concerns merely whether the foundation is recognized or obscured. In the last video, we discussed the history of the Shentong doctrine, which has been criticized within Buddhism for positing an eternal, self-established essence or self. We saw that there has been much debate as to how far we can reasonably go to ensure that the Prasangika-Madhyamika dialectic does not lead us into nihilism, and now we're going to hear the solution. Jamgön Ju Mipham Gyatso was a 19th century polymath within the Nyingma school whose writings profoundly shaped later Tibetan Buddhism. Mipham accepted the use of Shentong language when it describes how awakening appears, as luminous, knowing, and rich in qualities, but he nevertheless rejects any interpretation that takes Buddha nature to be a truly existing, already complete entity. Zogchen in general avoids the extremes of nihilism and eternalism by neither treating Buddhahood as something to be newly created, nor by claiming Buddhahood to be already fully manifest as an established reality. In contrast to Tsongkhapa, who treated emptiness primarily as a prasangika, non-implicative negation, and Dolpopa, who posited an ultimate principle endowed with positive qualities, Zogchen and Mipham places the inseparability of wisdom and emptiness at the center of realization. Mipham clarifies this position through a twofold presentation of the Buddhist two-truth doctrine. The first model corresponds to the traditional Madhyamika explanation, which distinguishes emptiness and appearance. Here, emptiness is the ultimate truth, and appearance is conventional truth. Although conceptually distinguished, both describe a single reality seen from different perspectives. Emptiness is the true mode of existence, and appearance is how phenomena manifest. In the second model, Mipham introduces a distinction between the authentic and the inauthentic truth. Authentic truth refers to perceptions that accurately accord with reality, while inauthentic truth refers to perceptions distorted by delusion. He therefore involves an epistemological distinction by emphasizing that ultimate truth is not merely the conceptual understanding of emptiness, but also the non-conceptual experience of wisdom, which includes both its self-knowing clarity and the way reality actually is. In this second model, ultimate truth is realized directly as non-dual and non-conceptual, identified with the Zogchen notion of Rigpa, while relative truth is associated with the conceptual mind, which typically operates through duality and reification. Mipham's two models do not conflict because they operate on different levels. The first guides analytical understanding by distinguishing emptiness and appearance conceptually, while the second clarifies how ultimate truth is directly experienced in meditation, emphasizing the non-conceptual unity of wisdom and emptiness. Thus, Mipham's framework provides a means for better interpreting centuries of debates concerning the nature of ultimate reality and how to point to it. In particular, it clarifies how both rangtong and shentong can be understood as carrying aspects of definitive meaning. They are different ways of pointing to the middle way. Rangtong, by virtue of the fact that it is intellectual, skillfully prevents eternalism, but not necessarily nihilism, and shentong, by virtue of the fact that it is experiential, prevents nihilism, but not eternalism. Navigating a middle way between these interpretations allows one to safely avoid the extremes of nihilism and eternalism. Again, from the perspective of how ultimate truth is apprehended through conceptual cognition, Buddha nature is the empty Dharma Dhatu, the object, while from the perspective of how ultimate truth is recognized experientially, it is the wisdom, the subject, that is not empty of awakened qualities. The ultimate truth contains both of these aspects inseparably as a true union of opposites. Rangtong clears away those views which are conceptual and dualistic and thus not consistent with non-duality, while shentong attempts to verbalize that which is beyond verbalization, given that any verbalization must render the non-dual into dualistic terms. If you've been following my channel, you may notice that this is precisely the same thing I tried to express in a video on the ultimate truth from the perspective of paraphilosophy, and is therefore why I regard Mipham to be of such great importance. Paraphilosophy and Mipham together can serve as the bridge between the West and the East. So, Buddha nature is not a truly established entity in the sense of possessing inherent existence, and it's also not a conditioned entity or dependently arisen phenomenon, but still it is not merely emptiness devoid of qualities. Now, obviously the assertion that Buddha nature is more than mere emptiness is an intellectual assertion, yet we have just said that intellectual analysis arrives only at emptiness. But if we do not know Buddha nature through the standard prasangika analysis, then on what basis is it established? Any genuine knowledge requires a genuine means of cognizing the object of knowledge. If the ultimate truth is knowable, there must be a corresponding means of valid cognition, and yet the ultimate transcends all concepts. If conceptual knowledge of emptiness were itself genuine knowledge of the ultimate truth, then there would have to be both a conceptual and a non-conceptual version of the same ultimate truth. Tsongkhapa and the Gelug school did indeed distinguish between a categorized and an uncategorized ultimate truth. In this framework, the categorized ultimate refers to emptiness as conceptually apprehended through analysis, while the uncategorized ultimate refers to emptiness realized directly in non-conceptual meditative equipoise. Conceptual insight is thus said to apprehend the same ultimate that is later realized non-conceptually. So, to return to the issue for Mipham, if the ultimate is realized in this uncategorized mode, how can valid knowledge of Buddha nature be had prior to uncategorized, non-conceptual realization, and without either reifying it as an ultimately existent object or collapsing it into mere conceptual negation? There is, however, an equally difficult problem on the Gelug side, which is that if both conceptual and non-conceptual cognition apprehend precisely the same object, then on what basis can we maintain that the ultimate truth is indeed beyond concepts? One would already have admitted that valid conceptual knowledge of it is possible. Mipham identifies this problem and rejects it as a misunderstanding. For him, the categorized ultimate simply cannot be the same as the uncategorized ultimate. The categorized ultimate is ultimate only in name, since the genuine ultimate is realized only in non-conceptual meditative equipoise and cannot be captured in thought. Conceptual understanding may approximate the ultimate, but this approximation is a different object of knowledge. It is the concept of the non-conceptual, not the non-conceptual itself. So now, back to the other problem. Prior to uncategorized, non-conceptual cognition that recognizes Buddha nature as it is, through what means can Buddha nature be known? How can unenlightened people know that they have Buddha nature? Buddha nature is not established as an object to be posited by non-conceptual cognition, since non-conceptual cognition does not posit anything as an object, and obviously it's not established by ordinary dualistic perception. For Mipham, it is validly recognized through a special type of conventional cognition known as pure vision. Pure vision is a mode of perception that, while still occurring within the domain of conventional reality, is free from the distortions of the ordinary dualistic mind. It perceives appearances in a way that accords with their ultimate purity. We know that pure vision is not misperception because it produces correct results and coheres with what non-conceptual wisdom verifies directly. Thus, within conventional reality itself, there exists a form of valid cognition that accords with the true nature of reality, without yet being identical to its full non-conceptual realization. Through this pure perception, one recognizes that all phenomena, and one's own mind, are primordially pure, complete, and inseparable from awakened qualities, even prior to full enlightenment. For Mipham, the manifestation of Buddha qualities is not the creation of something new, but the revealing of an inherent potential. These qualities are primordial endowments. They are always present, they are merely obscured until the veil of ignorance is removed. Ultimate reality may then be called truly established, but only in the sense that, for pure vision, appearances are not deceptive. They appear just as they actually are, and are therefore true. Ultimate reality is empty specifically in the sense that there are no false, deceptive appearances in it. That is, pure vision is the way that wisdom experiences appearances, rather than the way delusion experiences appearances. But the way they appear relatively, and the way they exist, ultimately, are the same. In this mode of perception, there simply are no phenomena that seem to have inherent existence, which is to say, there are not the kind of phenomena that are perceived by ordinary, unenlightened minds. Thus, wisdom is empty of such impure phenomena. Yet, in this mode of perception, the phenomena are still present, but they are present in a purified way, in union with their emptiness. The reason for the conflict between the shentong and rangtong views, therefore, is that when defining ultimate reality, shentong starts from the perspective of wisdom, where false appearances are absent, while rangtong starts from the perspective of delusion, where phenomena appear to have inherent existence. And because Prasangika Madhyamaka defines emptiness on the basis of false appearances, its method is to use logical reasoning to show that these false appearances do not ultimately have any inherent existence. Emptiness is thus a mere negation. It is the absence of inherent existence in appearances. The ultimate truth reached through this method is, therefore, a conceptual understanding that appearance and emptiness are non-dual, but this is not in contradiction with the claim that wisdom is empty of impure appearances. In this way, rangtong is definitive in preventing essentialism, but shentong is also definitive in the sense that it affirms the luminous knowing and qualities of Buddhahood, yet without treating them as an ultimately existent absolute. And because pure vision is a conventional form of cognition that is aligned with the ultimate mode of wisdom, Buddha nature can be recognized as primordially pure and complete without contradicting the claim that the ultimate itself is realized in an uncategorized way via non-conceptual wisdom. So, to bring all this to a conclusion, for Tsongkhapa, the ultimate is emptiness as a non-affirming negation, which is fully realized only by uncategorized ultimate cognition. Buddha nature is not a luminous ground, but simply the emptiness of mind. For Dolpopa, by contrast, Buddha nature is truly existent, empty only of adventitious otherness, but not empty of its own enlightened qualities. Here, the ultimate is established from the side of ultimate cognition as an ontologically robust wisdom reality. Mipham rejects both. Ultimate uncategorized wisdom does not posit anything, so nothing is established ultimately there, yet Buddha nature cannot be reduced to a mere blank negation, since the qualities of awakening are both primordially pure, ka dag, and spontaneously present, lun drup. Pure vision purifies appearances so that awakened qualities are apprehended without their reification. From the standpoint of ultimate truth, essentialism is prevented, nothing is ultimately posited, and from the standpoint of this purified appearance, the innate Buddha qualities are validly known. In the end, these Buddhist debates, emptiness versus luminosity or rangtong versus shentong, are different attempts to describe something that cannot be captured by concepts. Rangtong emphasizes that everything, including awareness and luminosity, is empty of any solid, independent existence. We must not treat clarity as if it were a something with qualities of its own which we could find. Shentong responds, yes, but there is this basic quality of awakeness which shows itself when delusion drops away. If you treat that as empty in the same way, then that's nihilism. Both sides are trying to prevent us from falling into extremes, and both are ultimately pointing toward the same non-dual experience. Remember, Vajrayana Buddhism tells us to rest in pure awareness, recognizing its openness, purity, and clarity. But it also tells us that this awareness is no more inherently real than anything else. These teachings are tools. They are supposed to loosen rigid ways of seeing. In contrast to many theistic traditions, Buddhism prefers to focus on what cannot be found or pinned down, and which is therefore empty of fixed existence. If we were to interpret Buddha nature or Dharmakaya as God in the traditional Western sense, then we are going to be imagining a separate, truly existing entity which would reintroduce the very dualism Buddhism is trying to dissolve. However, if we conclude from this that Dharmakaya doesn't exist at all, we fall into the opposite mistake. That denial still operates within the same dualistic framework where something must either exist or not. Affirmation and denial can't capture non-dual reality. Both are methods we use to steer away from opposite extremes so that what they point to can be recognized directly. The actual point is not to settle the metaphysical debate between eternalism and nihilism, but to transform how reality is actually known. Awareness is both empty and luminous, and it's very easy to think that emptiness or luminosity are inherently established qualities of a something, which would be wrong because that's dualistic. But we also cannot say that there is absolutely nothing which is empty and luminous, because denying inherent existence does not entail denying appearance or knowing. Emptiness is precisely what allows for this insubstantial luminous appearance. Yes, luminosity is empty too, we should not reify it, but still there is this primordially awake nature. When we call it empty, that only means that it's not a solid something. Trying to describe non-dual experience is like trying to balance a ball on a pin. You're never going to get it perfect, and when you fail, your descriptions are inevitably going to fall more to the side of eternalism or nihilism respectively, because language itself divides what is not divided. The ultimate point is not to find the perfect description, though this can be useful for communication, but to realize that the very reason why our descriptions always fail is the very nature of what we always fail to express.